Hello again, fifth graders, and welcome to lesson 2 of our geometry unit. And in this lesson, you are going to be figuring out angle measurements. So you see our learning targets. A review yesterday in lesson 1, you learned to measure, label, and draw angles. You were also able to classify angles. Is an angle acute, obtuse, straight, reflex, right? Your new learning target is that you will be able to determine angle measures by applying the definitions and the properties for angles, triangles, and quadrangles. So even when a measurement is not given, you're going to be able to determine what the measurement should be by understanding information about triangles and quadrangles and angles. Our new vocabulary: adjacent angles, vertical angles, and supplementary angles. You might want to pause the video and make sure that you have a notebook or paper ready for note-taking because you will need to know about these angles, what they are, how to define them. And before we begin that, just a reminder, there are different ways to name angles. We can draw an angle and label it with an uppercase letter that names the vertex. So again, if I took my drawing utensil, which comes up slowly here, and I were to draw an angle, I'd be able to label that vertex point. This point right here is the vertex. I could label that with one uppercase letter. I could label 2 points on the triangle, for example, here, and the vertex. So I could use 3 letters, A, B, C. I could use a single lowercase letter. So sometimes you'll see the angle sign and then just the letter C, for example. And I could see a single digit number. So sometimes you'll see an angle. It may look like this, and you'll see the angle sign and you'll see the number 1, angle 1. So those are some different ways that we can name angles. So one of the new vocabulary terms was adjacent angles. This drawing is an example of adjacent angles. They have a common vertex and they have a common side. Their interiors do not overlap. So we have angle A right here is adjacent to angle B. Adjacent means next to. So they share this vertex and they share this common side. When two lines intersect, we end up with adjacent angles, and we also end up with something called vertical or opposite angles. So angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent angles. They have a vertex, they have a common side. They are next to each other. Angles 2 and 4 are opposite each other. They are vertical angles. Vertical angles have the same measurement. So whatever measurement angle 2 is, angle 4 will have the same measurement. Angles 1 and 3 are vertical or opposite angles. The measure of angle 1 will also be the measure of angle 3. Adjacent angles form a straight line, so their measurements add up to 180 degrees. Angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent angles. They are next to each other, and you'll see that they form a straight line. Together, their angles will equal 180 degrees. So if I know that the measurement of angle 1 is 60 degrees, and I know that together these angles have to equal 180 degrees, I can figure out the measurement of angle 2 by simply subtracting 180 minus 60, and I'll get 120. Now remember I said vertical or opposite angles have the same measure. So if angle 2 is 120 degrees, then angle 4 is 120 degrees. And angles 1 and 3 are opposite or vertical angles, so their measurements will be the same. Angle 1 is 60 degrees, so angle 3 is 60 degrees. So in this drawing, if I have the measure of one angle, I can figure out all of the other angle measurements. Remember, angles that form a straight line are called supplementary angles, and their measurements add up to 180 degrees. So angles 1 and 2 are adjacent angles, also called supplementary angles. The measures add up to 180. Opposite or vertical angles have the same measurement. A line that crosses two lines is called a transversal. You've got two parallel lines here and another line that crosses it. The line that crosses it is the transversal. That is not one of your new vocabulary words right now, but I draw this picture so that you can see the angles. Again, we've got angle A and angle B are adjacent angles. The measure of their angles will be 180 degrees. Angles A and C are opposite angles. The measurement of those angles will be the same. So again, if I knew that the measure of angle B was 40 degrees, then I would know its opposite angle, angle D, would also be 40 degrees. And I would know that angle A plus angle B, adjacent angles, need to have a sum of 180. So 180 minus 40 would be 140 degrees. So just by knowing the measurement of one angle, I can figure out the measurement of other angles. So you'll want to pause the video here and jot down the answers on your notebook paper to these questions that have to do with angle measurements. Once you have recorded your answers, restart the video and continue. So now we're going to talk about different polygons and how we can figure out their angle measurements. Any polygon can be divided into triangles. We know that the angles in a triangle have a sum of 180 degrees. There are 3 angles in a triangle, and their sum must be 180. If we want to find the sum of the measures of the angles inside a polygon, we divide it into triangles and multiply the number of triangles by 180 degrees. So this is an example of a hexagon. We can divide it into triangles. This hexagon can be divided into 4 triangles. We make the triangles by starting at one point and going to the opposite points. We always start at this one point. Now, going from here to here will not make a triangle, but going from here to here makes your first, here to here makes your second, here to here makes your third, and this is your fourth. So a hexagon can be divided into 4 triangles. 4 times 180 degrees equals 720 degrees. So in a hexagon, the measure of the angles inside equals 720. All of the angles of a regular polygon have the same measure. On the last slide, we saw a hexagon, but it wasn't a regular hexagon. Here's a regular hexagon. It too can be divided into 4 triangles. We could start at this point and draw a line there. In fact, I'll do that. We can draw from here to here. We can draw from here to here and from here to here. So we've got our 4 triangles just as we did on the other slide. So we know that the measures of the angles is 720. A regular hexagon has 6 congruent angles. 6 angles. Congruent meaning same shape and size. So the measure of those angles will be 720 degrees divided by 6 because there are 6 sides, 6 angles. So each of the measures of the angles, of the 6 angles, is 120 degrees. So again, you'll want to pause the video and do the check for understanding. Have these answers recorded on your sheet or in your notebook for me to check. Once you've done that, restart the video for one final slide. And in this final slide, you are trying to figure out the value of the question mark. So you want to look at the relationship between numbers, the relationship, to see if you can figure out this missing value. So go back and review the video if you want to so that you'll take notes on those terms, know what an adjacent angle is, a vertical angle, supplementary angles, know how to figure angle measurements, know that you can divide a polygon into triangles and figure out the number of triangles times 180 degrees to give you the number of degrees in a polygon. If it's a regular polygon, you can divide the total number of degrees by the total number of angles to figure out what each angle will equal. So, thanks for watching and listening.